Okay, so today we are going to take these abstract lessons and move them towards a more concrete object. You're going to notice that and you're going to need a piece of paper, and it would be ideal if you had A4 printing paper. Why is that? That's because we're going to work with a grid today, because I want to show you how off we are as we start to kind of figure out where things are. Anjana pointed it out last week. It's like proportion issues. So the grid will help with that. But if your paper is a different size than this paper, if it's kind of it can be 9 by 12 inches, or like in the 28 to 30 by 21 to 23 centimeters, right? You want something that's relatively similar. The grid won't work if you're using a paper that's totally different size. So does everybody have that, first of all? So printer paper is great. If you're in the US and you've got an A4 printer, just grab a piece of printer paper. If you don't, something in this, like I said, the 28 to 30 by 21 to 23 centimeter size is great. And I want to point out as well that we're going to draw this horizontally. So I want you, when you do your drawing, make sure that your paper is horizontal. That means the long side is on top and bottom. The short sides are on the sides. Little things like this get lost in translation. So I want to make sure you're following. Hey, Doyen Sola, did we manage to address the reverse thing that was happening?
So I've joined from the app today. So I didn't have that problem.
All right. So tell me, is the beak on the left or the right?
On the right.
Yes. Okay, we're back in. Okay.
Also, I don't have printer paper, but this is the paper I have.
That's not going to work.
Okay.
You're going to need to get do you have 9 by 12? You're
Let
going to
me
need
go.
something. Well, tell me what size it is. Measure it for me.
Oh my gosh. Let me
Yeah,
see.
you're going to want a bigger piece of paper. You should
Okay.
either like cut it out of something else. Even if you have a grocery bag, make it 8.5 by 11, right? You can cut out an 8.5 by 11 size. Anything.
Yeah, let me go search for something really
All right.
quickly.
All right. So you go
Is
ahead
that
and
all right?
search. What size is that, Angie?
Let me check. Am I audible? Yeah, okay.
Yes, you're totally audible.
I
Lovely to hear
have
you.
no idea. They don't have. Oh God, I think it's A4.
Is
Might
it
be
It
A3
looks
though.
like A4 to me. We'll talk about why in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do here is set up the source for you. You guys don't have to do anything other than watch. I'm going to show you how to create your paper in a second. And I'm going to do this by folding this paper twice into four. And if I unfold it, you'll see it's in 4 equal rectangles. And just to really highlight this, I'm going to by the way, I'm very happy to see everybody. So you'll see I drew these lines in hot pink, and I'll send this over the thread as well. So what we're going to do when we start this drawing is we're going to recreate a grid here that's the same proportions. If you've got A4 paper and you don't mind a folded piece of paper, you can just literally fold it twice. Like that, and then unfold it. If you don't want the folds, the way to create your grid is to use a ruler, and you just on each edge mark the halfway point. This is 8.5 by 11. Oh God, I forgot. This is the ruler I can't read. I'll use this. That I can read. So
Sorry,
this
Leah.
is
One minute. When you say 8.5, you mean inches, right?
inches, right? Or
I don't think in inches.
22.
Thank you.
Yes, or 22. In this case, it's like 21 3/4 millimeters, that side. So what you can do if you don't want to fold your paper, if you don't want it folded like I just did here, is just take a ruler and find the halfway point. I'm just trying to decide which one is easier. 8.5, 4.25 is easier. Find the halfway point of each edge like this. This means that you got to be kind of with your ruler, right? And then the same on the long side. So my long side, your long side will be somewhere between 28 and 30 centimeters. Mine is 11 inches. Half of 11 is 5.5. Do you see how I'm going to each edge? I'm not trying to measure from the middle. It's funny. One of the things I found that's really interesting about teaching this is that people really struggle. Adults really struggle using a ruler. So I'm going to ask you to show me your grid on your paper before we actually start this lesson, because it's legit, it's a legit new, kind of tool that we're using. And I've just noticed, it's funny, as a kid, we generally learn how to use these things. But as adults, we're a little bit like, whoa, discombobulated every time a new tool gets brought into the equation. So go ahead and show me when you've got this. And I think you can see where we're going with this. It's kind of neat. I'm also going to ask you guys once again to work with me using my process, going on my steps. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to, or a dictator. Oh my God, dictator and dick. Interesting. I'm not trying to be a dictator. I'm just trying to enforce a principle that I know is not taught to people in school anymore. So it's going to feel weird to you, but it's actually the right way to do it, right? That's why I'm pushing the process. When you've got it, go ahead and send me a picture over the thread so I can see it. And in the meantime, I will take a picture of this guy here. Give me a second. I'm going to turn off the camera for a second while I take a picture. What? Oh, yes, turning off. Let's see. Give me a second. Angie, I'll take a look in a second. I just want to take a picture of this so you guys can see it. Angie, that doesn't look centered to me. It looks like one side on the long side is wider than the other. Can you check that? Maybe it's the way you photographed it, but it doesn't look right.
Might be the way I photographed it because I folded it so it is centered to me. Let me flatten
Okay,
it
so
out.
can you take a picture of it standing over your phone? Here, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'll do that one second.
Yeah, because it does. Do you see how your picture doesn't look right at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. So that's why I'm asking, because this stuff makes a difference. All right. You'll notice when I send you something, I try to send it like I just sent across the thread now. I try to send it with my camera directly over. What's going on here? There we are. I just got a bunch of hold on. There we are. Okay. I try to send it with my camera directly over, looking straight up and down, like my camera's right here. If I shoot it at an angle, then things start to skew perspective-wise. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks fine. Yep. Hold on, let me double check. But yep, that looks good. Yes, the fold at 1, 2. Yep, looks good. You can give yourself lines if you want to. Yeah, you just folded it. Perfect. Then we know it's right. So why is it important that these proportions be the same? Because if I have something that's like kind of longer and narrower, when we're going to use this lesson here, and let me just show you our first set of lines, are going to be these pink ones. Notice I am only drawing the outside. We're going to start with that outside shape, this pink one. No, nothing inside. Just like we did before, we're going to start with this outside shape. And we're going to use these lines to check our progress. And so if this is kind of longer and narrower, it means that when you lay these down, the proportions will look different. The puffin will start to stretch out. Well, you'll see. Let me take a look. And thank you guys for bearing with me on this. Doing solo, that looks great. Ani, that does not. Oh, yep, something looks off. It's the
because it's
top.
like yeah, it's basically the spiral there. So also I had to adjust it a little bit because I don't want to count the basically the part that has holes in the
Do me
paper.
a favor. Do me a favor. I'm going to call this up because it looks there's a little sloppiness here, and I'm going to show you where I think it's happening. I don't think your measurement on the top of the long side is the same as the one on the bottom. So I want you to double check that.
Maybe.
Let me show you what I mean.
It's for okay.
You see what I'm
is also
saying?
messed up.
I'm sorry, I'm going to make you
No
an
worries.
example. It's so mean. I'm so mean. Dictators are in, so I hear. Let's see. Let me get you up here. I'm going to show you what I mean. Can you guys see that this does not seem like it looks like this point is not at the same, it's not straight up and down. There you go. So you can see something looks off. And even though it's close enough, that's no good when you're doing sort of work like this. Anik, what is the size of that paper in centimeters?
I'm trying to measure it to 30, but it's a bit more than 30 because it is in the book.
So that's a problem as well. I would cut that out. So I would make this
that's what
28.
I'm doing.
So here's your measurements. 28 by 21 at 21.25. 28 by 21 and a quarter. So please nip that in and make sure those are on the right size, because I don't know if you saw, but her sketch looked a little bit longer, her paper, and that's going to elongate the puffin in a weird way. We don't want to have to do that. That's why I don't generally use grids very much, but I'm using them today because it's going to help you see things. But the proportions have to be correct for it to work. And just to let you know, I don't do a big grid, but I almost always do if I'm working from a photograph, I will often always draw one of these in, no matter how big my canvas, just to help me kind of locate and place things. It's really helpful. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys, I think we've got it, like where things are going. So our next step, and I'm just debating, I want you to watch me for a second, and then I'm going to put this up close so you can see it better. So essentially, I am trying to locate where these outer points are. I think this one is about here. And I can even check, let's see, one. That's more than halfway. Halfway is, well, is it? It's a little bit more than halfway. No, it is halfway, almost halfway. Notice instead of measuring with numbers, I'm checking halfway points. And I'm doing that, actually it is about halfway. Almost halfway. A little bit more than halfway. Here, this orange is where the halfway is. So you can find your own halfway point. I like to guess and then check. No. Some days I'm on. Can you see what I'm doing as I'm checking? I'm establishing a point, and then I'm taking my pencil and marking with my thumb the edge to the grid, and I'm lining up the edge here. So this side, this is the length of this side, and then I'm checking to see, is it the same as this side? Mostly. Maybe like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that when I start to, and then up here, I'm not gonna, this is not the end of my paper, this is this light area. So when I'm measuring, I'm once again gonna find, I think this is gonna be helpful here. I'm gonna find halfway points here. This feels tedious, and I want you to know there's a kind of tedium to making sure your things are proportionally correct. Okay, so I don't know if you saw what I did just there. What I did was I located the halfway point between here and here. I'm going to do the same thing down here. One. Because that's an easy thing for me to measure. 1, 2, right. So here is this point, and then I can use it to figure out, oh yeah, look, it's exactly halfway between that half. So if I come here and I find this halfway point, that's the top of the puffin. Here's the side, just a little bit to the left of the quarter point. And I'm just kind of guessing here. I think this is right down here. So when I come up here and start to sketch, I have an idea of my endpoints. I know that this, notice this, comes out further to the right than here. You see how I'm constantly, and I can come here. I'm constantly kind of reassessing my shape. I'm starting from the shapes that are easy to draw. I think this is sticking out a little bit too much. Yeah, it is. I'm reerasing this. How do I know this? Because I'm creating this little negative space here. So this is how I'm actually going to recreate that, which is fairly skinny. This goes in. That's the end. And then, oh yeah, look. At how much further out. So we're just going to be working on the top of our puffin. And by the way, some days you're going to be on with this, and some days you're going to be off. And ladies, I am not ashamed to tell you that today I'm off. I'm just off. So there's a lot of erasing. And one of the reasons I want you to watch me do it and do it with me is that I want you to see it's so much variable on how you're feeling, what your worries are, you know what I mean? All these things. And some days you're on and some days you're off. So it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about kind of seeing. So we're just working this top area here, including using this little negative space. And when you think you've got it, send it over.
Did you share the grid in the group chat? The
I
grid?
thought I did. Oh, you mean the shape? I did share the grid in the pen. The grid is there, but I can take a
Oh,
picture. It's there.
oh, okay. I see it
Yeah,
now.
do you see it? I
Yeah.
can share this shape if it's easier to see. I can totally do that. So let me do that for a second. But it's definitely already in there in the grid chat. But let me take a picture of this.
Ew, excuse me.
Yes, no worries. Okay, here is the come on. Fighting the here, I have to move it to get the picture right. There you are. There is the so I spent a significant amount of time kind of plotting where my things go, and I'm using the grid for this. I'm using the grid for this, right? I'm absolutely like before I draw any of these lines, I'm creating these points. I may not get it exactly right. And notice how big I made this. This is where my original line is, where my thumb is for the beak. Notice how far I put that out. But when I tried to recreate this shape looked too wide. So I knew I had to bring this beak in. And I actually had better luck when I came up from the bottom and did this to locate the end. Notice also that there's a lot of, instead of curved lines, I'm doing a lot of kind of, straight lines that shift direction. That's kind of a big one too. Curved lines are really easy. Hold on, I'll take a look. Angie. Excellent. Hold on. 1, 2. Yeah, it looks great. Angie, do you find, there's one thing that's off, I think, Angie, from looking.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on. Nope, it's good. It's good.
Okay, okay.
This needs to, 1, 2. Yes, that's what's off. This line, you have it down here.
Okay, okay.
It
I'll
needs to
put it a
come
bit more.
exactly at the halfway point. So Angie, you're the one who's
Uh-huh.
talked about this, right? This
Yeah.
idea of, so bring this up because his head's a
Uh-huh.
little, it should be exactly halfway between
Yeah,
here
yeah, yeah.
and here.
All right, all right, all right.
Otherwise, so here's one of the things I want you to think about. It's
Mm.
right, like this is how we start to get proportions right. It's extremely tedious. It is probably the most tedious part of the work, and nobody wants to do it. So, like, this is why every single 100% of people struggle, because when we just try to eyeball it, this shit happens, right? Here I am. I've taught this like many, many times. This very subject I have taught many times, and even I'm off when I'm guessing. Right. And this is what I do for a living. I do this 10 hours a day. So even for 25 years. So even when you've done it, it doesn't guarantee that you've got it right. One of the things I'm doing here is instead of drawing curved lines, which are really hard not to exaggerate the curve. Like you see, when I came here, I exaggerated this curve. It came too big. Is that I kind of, instead of doing curved lines, which are a gradual shift of direction, I actually kind of look here and see, I kind of square off. These lines so that I can get and then I can come back in and kind of round them later like that. See that? So I don't over exaggerate the curve. A way to do this is just to show things shifting plane, and then later you come in and you erase all this stuff, including these things, these guidelines. It's so, like I said, it's so tedious. This is why people don't teach themselves to do this. It's not very satisfying, and it's a lot of work. Honestly, it's math. And honestly, it's like visual spatial math, right? So it's like halves. A lot of people want to resort to numbers here, and I really resist that. I'm like, no, you got to learn how to measure, not with numbers, but by using tools that show you, right? Is this the halfway? This is the same as this, right? Numbers mess you up. Numbers are not easily applied to this method. It's more about starting to learn visual spatial perspective things. Does this look right? It's a little bit more like how a puzzle piece worked, except that puzzle pieces are all uniform size, right? So you don't even have like, here we're like taking bigger shapes and we're kind of trying to see how they fit together. This is the intellectual process I find really interesting because it's a very logical process, and it's a very different process from verbal conceptual logic. It's almost a completely different. So what'll happen at the beginning is your language side is going to try and tell you what's going on, and it's absolutely wrong most of the time. After a while, you'll notice your verbal conceptual visual spatial will kind of just link in with your verbal conceptual and kind of piggyback on it, and you won't be in so much conflict, right? And then you'll be able to see shapes more. I promise it's going to get fun soon. I swear. All right. And Angie, if you want to go further, let's see. Let's find the halfway point. The halfway point, I think it's about here, where the rock is. Yep. The halfway point is where the rock is. So if you want to find your halfway point here, it's kind of right. This is the halfway point. So the body comes out a little bit and then goes in right above the halfway point. See that? Kind of nifty. And then not only can we do that, we can also do things like that. Then we can see, oh yeah, and look at that, how convenient for us. The top of this is exactly halfway. So I'll give you that much. So I find my halfway point here. 1, 2. I create this negative space that goes from here to here. And then I can get this shape. Right, like that. Dorian Sola, let me see. Oh, Dorian Sola, I can't see your whole paper. I need to see your whole paper to see where your halfway points are. Can you take another picture? Agatha looks pretty good to me, I think. Hold on. There's one thing I want to check. Oh. Yes. Yeah, it looks good. Agatha looks good. Come on down here. This is your halfway point here. Is that right? Notice even I'm having to, yes, that's right. Here's your halfway point. Here's your quarter point. Find your halfway and your quarter points, and then you can get this much. So Dorian Sola, do you see what I mean? I can't see your whole paper, so I don't know what, I can't check your proportions.
Yeah, resending it now.
Yeah, perfect. Take a look. T. Looks great on this side. You're way too far out on this side.
Okay.
So your halfway point should be here. And this point is just half the back, just a teeny bit past the halfway point. See that? You put
Yeah.
yours over here. And do you see how that affects the back? It makes it look too long. And check this point down here because this doesn't look like halfway to me. Yours doesn't look like halfway to me. It looks like more like, yeah, it's not. So find your true halfway on this line as well. Other than that, very good. See how easy this is? So it's not really about getting it right the first time. I mean, you watched me make about 500 mistakes. I'm so fat. I've so incorporated mistakes into my process that I realized I actually had to slow things down because nobody noticed I was making mistakes. I'm just going to be really clear here. I was making a lot of mistakes. I erased a lot of things. And then from here, this is interesting. This is kind of more guesswork, except that what I can see is if I kind of curve this in, that this point is just a little bit lower than here. So if I come over here and go out, I bring that down to here. And then it's kind of a straight line down a little bit and then out. Not farther. Oh yeah, I did that too. But straight. So that's really what we're aiming for. By the way, another mistake here, because I'm not even convinced I have this right. Yeah, this is still too far out. How do I know that? Yes. So I keep putting this foot too far out. I'm going to put it in. There we go. Is that right? Yes. Yes. Yes, that's way better. Way better. And I tell that, I mean, it's really, now it just looks silly. But this is how we begin. But then it becomes really fun really quickly because now that I know I have my outer shape basically correct, I can, even if I need to fix it a little bit as I go along, it's not going to sort of destroy my drawing. I won't have to start over. I'm just double checking. Yes. I think it actually comes out here. Yeah, it's wider. And notice not having to deal with this section right now is actually helpful. I might have to tweak this a little bit, but I know that I'm pretty much in good shape. Our next step, of course, and I'll do this with a different color so you can see it, is to do some of the inside lines of the figure. There's really only one. And I can still use this, right? Too far, it needs to come in further. Here. There's a little bit of it's a funny shape there. Oops. Which means I need to bring this way in. That makes more sense. Do you see how I just did that? I just pulled this all the way in. To create this shape correctly, I had my original leg was out here. I'm going to just sketch it in for you so you can see. where I had my original leg. Look at how far off that was. And I figured it out when I began to sketch this shape. So I have this shape, and this one was pretty easy to get from there. And then I'm like, if I went all the way out here, it was going to be. So that's so fascinating to me. Drawing is so weird. It's a constant challenge of what you think is happening and what's really happening, and how much we privilege certain things as being true that aren't. Like, we think our perception, our left brain wants to tell us what's going on, and visual spatial terms, we assign importance to things that aren't necessarily important in the same way. And by the way, I love seeing everybody looking up, down, up, down. You can probably memorize about one line when you look up, either if you're looking over at your phone, right, or you're looking up at the screen. You can probably memorize one line. And I think it's helpful for you to see this. I can maybe bring it in just a little bit, though. Let's see how close. That's how close I can bring it. And I will amuse you with a story about how I learned visually how important it is to be looking up and down. I'm gonna pop myself up so you can see me here with it. So I was teaching, I lived overseas for 10 years. During the Obama years, what was I fucking thinking? I'm like, gone when it's good and now back here when it's terrible. And I lived in Croatia for a year and a half, and I taught these drawing classes to mothers and daughters. So I had taught this beginning, I taught a face drawing class for little kids and their moms. They brought in a photo. I showed them how to create a structure of a face. And then I walked around and corrected anything. If the kids wanted me to correct it, I would correct it. So one of the women who took the class is an Irish woman. Her daughter was 5. And I sat there and I put my hand on her picture and I looked at the source. So I looked at the picture, and then I did a drawing like this, and then I looked at the picture, and I did this. I looked at the picture, then I went to the drawing, I looked at the picture, I went to the drawing. So I did this, very quickly, because I'm pretty quick with it. And at the end of class, her mother called, once they got home, her mother called me and said, my daughter walked in the door and said, Daddy, I learned how to draw. It looks like this. Like that. Which is funny, but also true. It's exactly what it looks like. Like this. You're back and forth. You can continually be checking. And you're not required to be right. And as I said, some days we're better at this, some days we're not so good. When you think you have this shape, send it over to me and I'll take a look. Let's see. Anik, are these exactly the same size?
You mean
as my paper? Is your paper exactly the same?
I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but as close as possible.
Okay, so this looks pretty good, but this actually needs to come all the way down to the edge.
To the edge, okay.
Yes,
So
see it? Because it's in front. This leg is in front, so it's bigger. Otherwise, very nice. How did that feel?
Good, us coming back to this.
Okay, Anjana, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Mostly this is wonderful, but I want you to notice. And so and this is what happened down here is the same thing that Anik did. You did a left brain thing, which is to make these two shapes the same size. They are not, because one foot is farther away and also turned away from us. This foot ends up here and it has a narrower shape. This foot is wider and it comes all the way down to here. Do you see that? It's a much bigger shape than what you have. What you have is more like this. right? Because you made them equal, because that's what we want to do. We want to make things equal, even when they aren't equal. In fact, this guy, everything else about that looks perfect. I could say great and good learning on this. Excellent, great work. All right, go ahead and keep working on this, but I am gonna move ahead for the people who are ready for that. We need another color. Hang on. I'm gonna do. So once we've got these outer shapes, it's way fun. We're gonna start outlining the bigger inner shapes. I'll take a look at that in just a second. And you can see that the grid continues to help us in this exercise. And also notice, if you look at you'll see it really clearly. There are transitions, even in the white, here, it's not easy to see. I'm going to do it in pink. Even in the white, there are transitions between light and a sort of light, medium light, right? Like a 1 and a 2. Can you see that? It's very distinct. So what's happening here? Why is this important to show? Why is this transition important to show? This part is closest to the light, and this shows the body starting to turn away from the light. Got it? So this transition, even though it's not as extreme as this transition, right, from a 5 to a 1, is important because it shows a turning of the body away. So even though this is all white, it's not going to read it. You're not going to draw it as all white once you get it. All right, so then I like to take these kind of little bits at a time. I'm not even dealing with the beak yet. Actually, you know what's better than doing this? It's doing this little rough, because we can shape it. It'll help us. And it kind of comes down like that. These ones are pretty easy. I'm going to erase this. I'm not going to do the face first. I'm going to do these first because they're easier to see. And what you have are other things you can, judge against, right? Because you've already established. Once you've established something as proportionally correct, you can use it to check other things. When I did that, I could feel like this needed to get in a little narrower. So I'm actually narrowing a little bit my whole body on this side. Not by much, but I can really see it here. And then from here, oh yeah, I was totally had that wrong. I know that this comes almost down to here. Is that right? That's not right. This needs to come out and then over. Out and then change. Shift and then change. Shift, change. Up, shift, change. If you look at most drawing school curriculum, you will see a lot of kind of squaring off like this of rounded subjects. If you look it up, if you look for like drawing examples, you will see that most students who are taught I can already see I'm going to need to print out one more copy of this because I am covering up some things that are important to see. What I haven't drawn is the eye. What I haven't drawn is the detail on the beak. I've just tried because those are smaller shapes. I'm not convinced. This doesn't quite feel right to me. There we go. That feels a little bit better. Hold that back a little bit. See how I'm really playing with this before I'm even bothering to get to anything else. It's logical, isn't it, guys? It's logical. It's tedious, but it's so logical. It is the most logical thing you're going to see today. Many other things are defying logic right now, but not this. Not this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna print out one more copy of this. Puffin, where are you? I'm gonna print one out that doesn't have all that we can look at, that doesn't have all the there we go. Drawing lines on it because you're gonna want to see. I've covered up some stuff. Dang it. There. Be right back. I don't know about you guys. I get so dang hungry when I do art. I feel like I had to go make myself a sandwich. Like, if you need to eat during this process or drink, for some of you, it's 5 o'clock or close. Dorian Solo looks great. Angie looks great. Angie, I think you can see where we're going with this, right? Oh, wait, sorry. Am I muted? Okay. Am I muted? Can you guys hear me? Okay. What is... How about now? Can you hear me now?
It's okay. I
Okay.
can hear you.
Got it. Okay. I think, Angie, you can see where we're going with this. You could, at this point, start darkening, determining your values. And I like to always kind of go for my darkest values, right? So I'm kind of working around here. This is my 5, my heaviest dark. So I'm kind of going in here. Notice where that eye, right, goes, kind of right above this halfway point. If you look really closely at the eye, and then you can start to add in these. Right? There's this happening. Got this happening. So you can see that we can start to like add in our values once we've got that basic shape in place. Oh, and even that's not right. I bent it too much. It's really kind of more going this direction. There we go. That looks better. So then you can start getting in some of that detail. I'm going to put that there so you can see it. And I'm going to tell you guys, finish this drawing. And I'll take a look at it any step of the way. So as you're working on it, let's see, somebody just sent something in. Yeah, doing solo looks great. Looks great. Nice. And I like that squaring off you're doing. You're really taking that in. Nice, Agatha. Yep, yep. Go ahead and start doing your darks. Oh, and of course, you can also add in, right? The rock if you want. Because he isn't, of course, just sitting on air. Here is this picture. You also have the picture in front of you on the thread if you need it. Great work, you guys. Amazing. Actually, during solo, it's amazing when it's not, when the image isn't flipped, isn't it? It's an entirely different experience. Totally different. It's like, oh, this is manageable now. You're a trooper. Fantastic, Anik. And you can see, if you guys look at Anik's, just how starting to get those darks in. It's a little hard to see here, so I'm going to sketch it here too. There is like a dark on the bird, and then there's the dark of the background. There's the kind of how that looks. This, once you've done this work, the drawing is much easier. And although the beginning is harder, what I like about it is that it is a logical process, but no one teaches themselves to draw this way. No one, absolutely no one. People teach themselves to draw by looking at a detail, getting it all exactly right, starting over 200 times so they get that eye right, and then they start working on the beak. And the problem with that, as you have experience in doing these drawings, doing this outline, is it's easy to make things too big and disproportional. So you've got to make sure your sort of proportions are in place. But I like to liken learning to draw like learning to read. No one learns to read on their own, right? We do learn language just by being around it. There's a whole bunch of brain processes that kick in. We start with tone, and understanding of having a picture in our head of words to associate with different things, different concepts. We can pick that up just by being around it. We don't have to have special training, but we do need special training to read, and we do need special training to write. We can't learn those things on our own because those logic systems are complex enough that like they require some assistance in how to get into them, right? If adults don't teach themselves, people don't teach themselves to write, they don't teach themselves to read. We do teach ourselves to speak as long as we're able to hear and hear other things. So this is another system like writing or reading. Drawing is another system that we have to be taught because it's not, the other thinking systems in place aren't assisting. It's an ancillary system. It's like having a different tool in your toolbox, right? In your mental toolbox. So that's why we don't learn to do it. Some people learn to copy what they see to some extent, but once you'll notice that what will happen is people will consistently kind of revert to, I'm making everything exactly the same. The feet are the same, even though they're not, because this foot is closer to us and faced a different direction. So much wider than this foot, which is farther away and faced away from us, right? We, although that logically makes sense, when you're teaching yourself to draw, you don't necessarily see those differences. And I know this is true because people who are way better drawers than I am come to me constantly for help. Because I can actually see what the problem is with their drawing in a way that they can't, because I look at it from this construction. That makes sense. I don't really like to draw. I like, as long as nice and nice. So Angie, look at this. This is a 5 and this is a 2, but yours look almost exactly the same. Can you see that?
Yeah, I'll lighten it a bit. I think I went a bit hard on the pencil.
You got to lighten and really pay attention. Actually, now that I look at this, I kind of see this edge coming all the way here. And then there's a couple of little flutes. Can you see that? So yeah, but good in general, but really push your darks and really pull back your lights. And then you've got a lot of dark, light, medium things happening in here. Remember, we got 5 values and there are 5 values in this bird. Yeah. Anyways, as I was saying, I love it when people who are way better draw, like I don't like to draw. I'm not a pencil person. I really can't stand it. I mean, I've made my peace with it, but it's not my thing. I can draw with paint a lot better than I can draw with the pencil. But in general, I understand the value of drawing, and so I've made my peace with it. But I don't spend lots and lots of time getting very detailed with my pencil. I'm not the person to come to for that. However, I am the person to come to regardless of whether you're that person or not, if your drawing is off and you can't figure out how. So it's amazing to me the people who spend all this time with the pencil and can get all this little teeny tiny detail will still miss a completely obvious perspective construction. But I can see it, right? So even though I can't recreate because I don't spend the time that they do with the pencil, I can absolutely see the problem with their drawing. And so I guess that's, I'm trying to say there are different skill sets within this. Learning to make your tool do all the things is one thing. Learning to, and learning all the different pencils and what they mean and the, you know what I mean? That's an entirely different. Learning to construct a shape so that you get all the pieces correct, that's an entirely different skill. They are not the same. The tool and the skill and the compositional challenges are, you know, so it's a different skill set that is like required. There's a million skill sets in art, and that's what's really great about it. Some people are really good at some things and not good at others. I'm not great with the pencil, but I'm a whiz with the brush. I love charcoal. I hate, you know, I don't know. Well, I don't really hate anything, but these days I love everything, but I understand the value of everything. But, you know, my natural tendencies in one, I have no problems mixing color. For many people, color mixing is really hard. For me, it was like, I actually had to think about it because I do it so naturally. I can't even break it down. But there are a lot of things I'm not good at. And pencil drawing is one of them. I don't have the patience for it. I could be good if I wanted to. Oh, and I'm also terrible with 3D construction. I've never had any desire to try and build something three-dimensional. That's another skill set. Ah, nice, Anik. I love the darks that you've got there. And I also see that you've got a little bit of that too in the face.
Yep.
What do you note that the eye is on the
Midpoint.
it's on the
like
left side. You have
on
it
the
over
left side. Yeah, I need to correct it a little bit, but it's like just
You need to move it over here. You need to move it
a
over
little
here.
bit thick. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to move it over a lot. It's easy to get things big. If you look really closely at the eye, you'll see there's 2 values or maybe even 3 in the eye.
I think 3, but
Yeah, I
anyway.
think 3 too. I'm gonna do a close-up. Hold on. Not of my knees. I'm gonna do a close-up of that picture so you guys can really see it. But I love your value differentiation. It's wonderful. Mhm. I'm gonna do this here. All right, so I'm forwarding this and then I'm going to edit it. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Dang it, come on. It's so annoying. It's gonna make me pull it out. Damn it, you're not really gonna make me do this, are you? It is. It's totally. Why won't you let me edit it? Why won't you let me even? Okay. Well, that's really annoying. Let me see if I can do this on the, here, I'm gonna pop my camera back on and I'll see if I can do this on the computer. Sorry, I didn't mean to be gone this long. Here we go. No, come on. There we are. Um, so I would do it here. I'm going to do a close-up of that puffin eye so you can really see it, and I'll send it across the thread for you. Um, oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, 3 values. 5, 4, and 3. Here you go. This should be helpful. Well, are you shocked and amazed? Are you delighted and surprised? There we go. There's a close-up of that puffin's eye. And there you can really see also the shading on the bottom part of the jowl here. And actually also this whole thing that's happening. So there's actually some fair amount of value shifts here as well. Nice eye there, Anik. I see you saw that. Very nice. Right. One more cup of coffee and I'll be ready to go. Oh, Bazoo would like to say hello. Here's Bazoo. If anybody wants to introduce their pets, he's like, I do not want to say hello. How dare you speak for me? If anybody wants to introduce their pets, I'll pop you up on the screen. You are welcome. Also, Anik, will you please share that beautiful sketch you did this morning outside your window? You put it on Sunday's class, but you didn't
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on.
I can share.
Anik did a beautiful sketch, just a quick sketch of a tree. A birch, an aspen?
It's a birch.
It's a birch. So they don't have the heart shaped, so are the leaves heart shaped?
No,
No, birch.
other than
Birch.
like birch, typical one. Just need to find the.
Send it over. It's beautiful. Actually, I can probably do it. Hang on. You keep working. I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
You do it. I can just forward it from the other side. Let's see here. I'm not doing anything except sitting and looking at you guys. So there you go. Let's see. Oh, Sleepy Puffin. Yeah, he's really got, it's really interesting.
This kind of feature, like there's this kind of big expression that it feels like he's sleeping.
It is. He's a doll. All right, here is, nope, not there. It's funny, you can figure, I use WhatsApp on my computer, my laptop actually, so I can use my phone as a demo. Here it is. So look what Ani did just quickly before class. Isn't that beautiful? It's a really great exercise, Ani, because it's simple, but I feel like you got the movement right.
Thank you.
Trees are really a great way to learn to draw because they have this wonderful organic movement that is not right. It goes this way and then they go this way and they drift and change because they're so old and they move in the direction of the light. They have a wonderful motion. And I know that's what you're working on right now.
Yep, I mean, different time because it's beaches, but this one is like, this is something that I see every time I'm working from home using my son's desk. So
nice.
It's hunting me basically all
yes. year. Nah, she's helping you.
I hope so. Hope so, but the fact that it's outside and it's not a picture and I have to really focus, that actually helps.
Yes. And just so that you guys know, we've got about 35 minutes left, or less if you can finish this in less time. These classes are supposed to be somewhere between 90 minutes and in 2 hours. We're at the 90-minute mark. And of course, you can always stay in class and just drift over to Lotto's class. Keep working, where you will be sure to be entertained.
Oh, yes.
I like to think of Lotto's class as kind of like an art salon. He has one of those memories that remembers everything he reads. And he's just got such a massive amount of information in his head about the art world, history, contemporary, future. I remember when we first met in the Republic of Georgia, he's from the Republic of Georgia. When we met in Budapest, which is where we were all living, I was sharing a studio with another American girl, and Lotto was making some comment about a contemporary artist, like somebody married to David Byrne. I forget who it was, the guy from the Talking Heads. And I remember this American artist I shared my studio with looking at him and saying in deep frustration, "How do you know all this?" And he looked at her and said, books? She went, "What books?" Like, what books do you read? But you know that. And he's like, I just read a lot of books and I remember it. And you could see intellectually, she could, wait, now I'm beginning to understand the problem in America. Not an intellectual group as a rule, but Lotto's very intellectual. And on top of that, remembers everything he reads. So so you'll learn a lot about art history, and I think that's important. One of the things that Lotto taught me, I tell this to him all the time, is he taught me how to talk about art, right? How to learn to talk about art, to put it in context. There's a lot of artists in America, I will say, who don't have that context, and so they say things like, well, I do this and I don't do that. But in my view, everything that we do is because somebody else did something before us, right? Many people. Who is it? It's Brunelleschi who figured out how to project, who figured out about perspective in the 1400s by projecting an image on a pinhole, through a pinhole, and having it, like, he figured out how perspective works with buildings. Nobody knew that before. That's why drawings used to look so flat. So Brunelleschi, amongst many other artists, was very important in conveying our understanding, or intellectual understanding of how we draw, how we learn how to draw. Everything that, any drawing that we do is based on the work that Brunelleschi did. Right. So it's good to know that. It's good to know that you didn't invent it. It was invented by somebody else.
Exactly.
Now I'd like to know who invented knitting myself. That to me is a big mystery. I don't know how anybody figured out how to make that work. Something that when you put it together, you can make a sweater, and but you can pull it apart with one thread. That's like magic witchcraft to me. I'd like to know the first person who figured that out. Because she's probably a woman, we'll probably never know.
Many things, yeah, but you're right that it is a witchcraft. That was a witch.
It is a witchcraft, right? It's complete magic. I mean, when you start looking at the world in this way, in the way of creators, you realize how much is really amazing. Craft is so incredible. Drawing and painting are really, sculpting is like bananas amazing. Oh, beautiful. And Angie, I love it. I love it. How did this exercise go for, and beautiful mark making. Do you guys see how she kind of smudged the edges here and kind of kept a few things lighter? It's fantastic. Very, very well done. My question for you, Angie, because I think of you as one of the more experienced drawers on this thread, is how did this process work for you?
You remember how you said that a lot of people who teach themselves to draw start from a detail,
Yeah,
and then they move on. That's exactly what I was doing because
yeah,
I love drawing portraits. And for me, when I draw portraits, I will always start with the eye. And
yes.
that is not, I don't think, I'm not sure why that is, but I have facial recognition problems. Like I
Nope,
have walked
every
past my home one day.
100%, let me tell you, Angie, 100% of people do the same thing you do. So don't think this is your problem. This is a
I
human
always thought it was
problem.
that because I recognize people from their eyes or their voice. I have a lot of
Everybody
difficulty
does.
understanding faces.
Everybody does. Everybody does.
I just have facial recognition. I always attributed it to that. Now that you say it, I guess it's normal.
No, it's
So,
just really normal. It's so
okay.
normal. So how
So
does this
I thought there was something
process
wrong
go?
with me.
No,
So
you're exactly like
this
everybody
starting
else.
from the outside and building the shapes, I've seen other people do it. I follow a lot of artists on Instagram. So I learn a lot through watching other people draw. So since I've never been formally trained. So they would actually do this construction lines and I realized like, okay, that would fix the problems I have. But like
Yeah.
you said, I never had patience for it. So.
Well, it's hard to get patience for it because you don't know how to do it. I mean, it took me a lot, right? It took, I had to do a lot of measuring, visual measuring before I put things down. So thank you, Angie, because I know you are no different than anybody else. You are not in that way. And so this process should actually because you've drawn enough to know when you struggle, this process should, once you get used to it, it'll feel really natural to you, because it's really the only way to draw is this
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I
Wait till
understand
if
now.
you took my faces class, it would drive you nuts. You would really have to have a lot of patience with that. But later you would look at me and say, oh.
Oh yeah,
This is the
that I did
every
have it a couple
problem
of
I
moments.
have, you just like addressed it. So yeah, and very particularly, I mean, like I said, Gina Chua, who was your guys' former second in command, Gina is exactly the same way. She trained herself to draw the way you did, and she's an extraordinary drawer, except when she doesn't follow her construction, which she doesn't. And I still, to this day, will get a text. Gina often works really late at night, so I'll get a text at like 9 or 10 p.m. my time, which is like midnight her time, and she'll be like, what's wrong with this face? And I'll be like, your construction is wrong. Like, and I want to be really legit clear. Gina is a better pencil drawer than I am. She does faces all the time. She's an amazing pencil drawer, but she still comes to me because she knows that I don't look at it that way. I can deconstruct it, and she can't. So that's right? Like, it's so interesting, like how that, like, I mean, really, literally, I think I just got one like 5 days ago. She
When
doesn't.
I draw, I don't have anyone to give me feedback like that. So what I used to do is I used to take a photo of it, and then I used to look at
Yeah.
the photo, and that used to actually show me like, oh my God, I've exaggerated this. I've not done this.
Now
So
that's
that
a good technique. That's a good technique. You know what it's like? Taking a photo of something is like standing back.
yes, I don't have an
So
easel or anything. I know
yeah,
drawing upright is ideal, but I don't have an easel.
no,
So I used to
that's
take
totally
photos on.
fine. Everybody starts it. I think a lot of people do me a favor, Angie, can you hold your drawing up so that we can all see it? Right. This is also like standing back. Right? Isn't that beautiful, you guys? Didn't she do a good job? Yeah, she did a nice job.
Very good.
That is also like standing back, holding your drawing up. You're able to,
Yeah.
but from in a classroom, what you would do is, as a teacher, I would say, step back and take a look at that, and you'll immediately see the problem. Yeah, but I mean, I guess what I mean by problem solving is, does anybody else need to see this big? I feel like you're all kind of there. Let me know if you want me to pop this back up on screen. The big problem with the construction thing is that it doesn't satisfy the left brain's desire for perfection. Like it doesn't look perfect enough. If you remember from our lesson last week, the lily looks like a squashed starfish once we get the outside shapes. It's very unsatisfying. But then the moment you add the values in, the inner values, then it starts to really sing. So you have to kind of learn, sort of back up, learn, oh, this is right, even though my left brain is telling me that it's wrong.
So it's
This
like
is
trust the
right.
process on a bigger scale, kind of.
Trust the process. And then after a while, you will see that you can't see it any other way. So I guess I had an advantage over you, in that I did not know how to draw when I started painting at 30. I did not. I didn't have any, I hadn't done it as a kid. I didn't like it. Painting was really natural to me, but drawing, I had no idea. So I was very clear that to catch up, I had to fucking I had to understand the rules, right? And I was old enough to kind of understand that there are rules and structures to things. So in a way, I'm in a better position because I didn't have another system. I had to override, right, the other system. And also I was really able to see it.
That's true.
Yeah, and and because I encounter many people like you, exactly like you, who have skill, who've been doing this on their own for a while, I know exactly. It's the same problem with everyone, right? Everybody has the same problems. So, and I know the solution, right, to the problem. So I might not be as good a drawer, but because I don't spend that much time with it, but I can solve that construction problem. And then not only that, I can apply it to my painting, which is really where I put that energy, right? Like that's where I put my hours in. So the idea is this is kind of a translatable skill that is a little different than actually using the pencil. You use the pencil beautifully. I can see that you have trained yourself in some beauty. Your mark making is stunning. It's like I can see that you have done a lot of work on that, and that's so wonderful. So this process, it's a different one, but it should make your life easier and make you feel more confident that you know what you're doing, right? That you're not just kind of grasping, that you know what you're doing. And that's that's what a good system does, right? It gives you the confidence to spring it off, whatever you want to do.
Actually, for me, I think more than pencil, it was actually pen. I think
Yeah,
I used to I actually failed all my art classes in school, but that was mainly because I was very lazy and I wouldn't give attention to final assignments. But
right.
in class, I think that was the first time like we started using pen. So I used to use pen and I used to hatch. I didn't know the
Yeah.
name of what I was
You
doing.
like lines. You like really hard lines. You're what,
Contrast.
yes, the pen, and that's
So
good. I mean,
yeah.
that's valid.
So I that was like the first time I understood. Oh, so my teacher was like, this is hatching. I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing. So
Yeah.
I didn't, so hatching, pointillation, that just came to me very, very naturally. But then the proper gradate, like, you know, the gradation, shading, that stuff, like the
Soft
magenta,
edges, those
soft
things, the
edges and
harder.
stuff did not come naturally to me.
Yeah.
Painting was a bit more difficult, although I do have some skill for that, but
Yeah.
painting was a bit more difficult. But for me, lines, harsh lines, using
Strong
lines to build
lines. Yep.
strong lines
And
and
that's
contrast.
and that is I'm sorry, you're getting me excited because this is exactly right. That is a different way, like that's illustrative, right? Like, and it's still art. I'm not saying it's not art. For me, it was the opposite. If you can imagine, I could see those little mushy areas. I loved the little transitions between light and medium, light and dark, those soft edges. I hate hard lines. I don't like hard lines. I recognize that I need them, but I try to avoid them whenever possible. I like a softness in my edge. So it's also partly like what we prefer, right? Like how you prefer it. Because I don't like hard lines, I try hard to incorporate them as much as possible because you don't like soft edges because they're not your natural go-to. The push for you is to kind of push beyond while purely understanding what it is you do. Like, I'm not trying to get you to love soft edges. I'm just trying to get you to understand how they play into what you do, right? So I don't want you to draw like me. I want you to draw like you, uh, to the best of your ability. And that means understanding all the different things, but also understanding, um, hey, like some people are naturally good at this. This particular teacher, me, I'm a painter. So you're getting a drawing from a painter's perspective, which is probably helpful for you because you're not right. Because I mean, you like painting, but it's not your favorite. The woman I'm going to be hiring to teach drawing and painting in beginning drawing in 2025, she can do everything. She doesn't seem to have any block at all in any area. I've never seen it. She's sculptural. She's line focused and oriented. She's also soft edge. She can use any material. She's the most beautiful drawer and the most inventive, crazy artist I've ever met in my life. And I mean, when you go to a show, she has things that you have to pull and stuff on the ceiling and stuff made out of grocery bags and beautiful drawings, and everything shows up in her art in a way that I've never experienced. But she's better with line. And when we were talking the other day about our curriculum, she's going to teach it in an entirely different way than I would. So you guys would be, I would advise that you jump into that class. It'll start in January. It'll be this time zone, six sessions. And because she's going to use colored pencil and ink and like all kinds of things that never occurred to me to use for beginning drawing. So she will also like come at it from a different perspective, right? Like there's a lot of ways to teach it. So I'm really excited about that. But it's just, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a whatever you're good at, My goal is to push you a little bit outside your comfort zone into the things you're not good at. And I know that that will feed what you're good at. I'm not trying to make you not do what you're good at, but I know that the learning happens in the areas where where you're not good. I know that from hard, bitter experience of my own, many. If you could have seen me after my first drawing class, I sobbed. I was like 32. I had worked for Time magazine and covered the Hong Kong handover to China and been a teacher of journalism in Mongolia. And I went into a drawing class at 32 and I was the worst one in the class. It was such a big slap down. I can't even begin to tell you emotionally how fucking hard it was for me not to be good at it. It was really hard. And my teacher didn't tell me any of the things I've told you, not one. He didn't know how to describe it. He was a good drawer, but he could not teach. And so the first class I ever took. And then I had other teachers who were good at pieces of it, and it started to click for me. And then I was able to kind of build and construct my own curriculum, but it was hard, really hard, and the best thing I ever did. So at the same time, it was like so humility, like it's so humbling. And yet this is the only point that we're actually exercising our brain. We're keeping it active. We're staving off dementia. We're creating focus when it's hard to focus. We're shutting out the outside world and really concentrating on a process. Those are the things that help us mentally and actually physically, because it helps your brain. They say that like learning a language or and I think of learning to draw as like learning a language in a way, as an older adult staves off dementia, because it keeps the whole brain active. Let's see. Whoa, beautiful. All right, these are awesome. And one of the things I want you to do, girls, I want you both to hold up. Angie, can you hold it up, and Anik, hold yours up? Actually, everybody hold theirs up wherever they are. Doyen, Agatha, go ahead and hold them up. I want you to look at, these are fucking awesome. These are awesome. Notice they're all absolutely the subject, right? They all look different. Every single one looks different. You're not going to do it the same, even though, Dorian, I would maybe scoot the little back edge in just a little bit more to the right, right? Yeah, on the left side, I'd bring that in just a tiny bit. Yeah, like to about there. Yep, exactly. So just pull in that line and erase that outer edge. You see how you can start to see it better sometimes when you add in, but Dorian, I want to tell you, I love your mark making. It's very strong, and your shading is really like good and intense. Like you can really see it.
I was worried about the beak.
The beak looks great.
Okay.
The beak looks great. He looks a little fat on the left side. So if you can bring him into the right about
even more.
Yeah.
On this side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just draw a straight line. I'm going to show you how this looks. This is how you fix it the quickest, easiest way. So your guy, imagine that he's like this, right?
Yeah.
You just draw a straight line down like that. Erase this.
Okay.
See, you don't have to redraw everything. You just have to kind of bring it in here. And I'd say about a 1/4 of an inch. But otherwise, very nice. Great work. Anybody else? Anybody else find this process kind of interesting? Different than you expected? Maybe you didn't have expectations about how it was going to go. If it's different, I'd love to know. Any thoughts you have on it? I can talk about this stuff for hours.
I mean, this process definitely makes drawing way less intimidating.
Yeah.
Because at one point when I was trying to do the eye, it felt way too big. Like I guess I was going off the process you just taught us. Like, okay, everything else is in place. Like I could just quickly draw the eye. And I was like, oh no, that's way too big. So it was like, yeah, like you have to trust the process even though you want to skip ahead.
Right. And you
Which
want
I
to
think
fight
is
it. And
interesting.
did you notice, Doyen, that I also made the eye too big?
Hmm.
I did it so quickly and I fixed it so quickly that you didn't notice
No,
that
I didn't notice.
I actually also extended the eye too long. And then I went, oh no, wait, it's over here. And then move it. So I did the same thing. It's not like we're not going to do it. It's that we catch ourselves. You know, it's like therapy, right? Like, it's not like you're going to fix your triggers. Your triggers are your triggers. They're going to fucking happen. You're going to get mad at little things or whatever it is that you do that you don't like. It's going to happen. It's not like it's not going to happen. It's just you're going to catch yourself doing it, maybe in the middle of doing it, maybe right after doing it, and then do something corrective, right? That's really what it is. It's we're fighting our own. And even me, I consider myself very much in right brain. I can correct anything anybody sends me. I can correct my own work. Even I still make these mistakes. So you're gonna not, it's not that you're not gonna do them. It's gonna, you're gonna learn that you do them. And then you're gonna laugh at yourself because you're gonna be like, I fucking know this and I still did it. Like, and that's really all it is.
How about
Yes,
now?
much better. Much better.
Okay.
Yep, yep. It's wonderful. Absolutely. Isn't he adorable?
Yeah, it's cute.
Really adorable. It's important for this process to work. I'm kind of toying next week with what I'm going to do with you guys next week. I might have you do a negative space exercise, which is really fun and very different. I tend to like doing those with charcoal, but I don't know if everybody has charcoal. So I might do a version where I show you how to do it in charcoal, but also in pencil. Just to continue this idea of how you construct things, not with the subject itself, but using the negative space around it. It's fun. And this process really only works if the papers are either, so if this paper is the same size or if it's double. So if this is double the size, this will also work. If it's 4 times the size, it will also work. But the proportions have to be exactly the same, just bigger. A 1 in 3 doesn't work. Does your son like it, Anik? Is your son going, yeah? Yeah, good job, Mom. Hey, Anik, for you, how did this feel? I think this is the first time you've really clicked back into drawing. I've seen you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like it, and I like where I where I'm going with that. And honestly, I like to come back to drawing, even if I'm mostly painting. First of
Yeah.
all, well, it helps painting, yeah. Secondly, it's like really cool to see the progress. You know, it's been almost 5 years I'm painting and drawing with you.
Yeah.
So I like to keep, you
Crazy.
know, sometimes come back to the first things that we've done during the classes, and it is like, wow, it's really like
I
oh,
always do
testament to how
yes,
good teacher you are.
thank you. I always keep expecting people to get sick of me after 5 years and be like, all
Oh
right, I'm done.
no, come
But it
on.
doesn't seem to happen. Um, I always, at the beginning of, in January, I will take every class, reset it back to 0. So we will reset in watercolor drawing and painting back to basic watercolor techniques. We'll reset in acrylic painting back to basic acrylic painting techniques. So if you, I know watercoloring at Agatha is not at the good time for you, but if you want to, I will record them. So if you want to get me to put you on the thread, you can see every video and at least see what everybody else in class is doing and do it at a different time. We'll be starting back at 0. So it's a great time to kind of jump in.
Yep.
I mean, right now, all the drawing and painting classes on Saturdays and on Tuesdays, mine are in figure drawing and face painting. So it's like super hard, but they'll reset back to ordinary because everybody who's done all that, they then need to reset back to the basics to see how the basics apply, right? Once you have all of these details, it's detailed work. So it'll be a good time to jump in. Huh, I wonder where Lotto is. He's usually here by now. I hope this was
Leia,
enjoyable. Hmm?
oh, sorry.
Go
If we're
ahead.
doing next week's class in charcoal, like what do you actually like, what materials are you using? Like just charcoal
Uh,
sticks and
I charcoal sticks, but not the compressed ones, the soft ones.
the willow
So it would
ones, I think the
willow, yeah,
thin.
willow would work. Yeah, willow would work. Vine would work. So compressed will look, and no pencils. It's all like just the sticks and the soft ones. So think about something that's soft and doesn't leave hard and can easily be erased. And in fact, I don't think I have it. I think I took it to my other studio, so I don't. I'll have to send you guys pictures of what I mean. And then I use something in the US, we call it newsprint. It's made from recycled, it's the paper that newspapers were printed on. And it's fantastic for charcoal. I have not found in any other country anybody who has anything like this. I've told this to many art teachers here. No one can believe it. I'm like, like I have students all over the world and nobody else can find newsprint. I just don't use it. I don't know what they use, but they do not use it. Newsprint has this sort of special absorptive ability to kind of take in charcoal and do a really soft edge. I will send materials across, but you can also do this lesson in pencil. So I will demonstrate both. Unless I have them here. Maybe I have it here.
I wanted to ask what the other classes are. I'm sure I can look it up, but
There is painting, acrylic painting on Saturdays right now. Saturday mornings or afternoon for you, same time as this class. And then there is a Tuesday night watercolor painting class that starts at 8:30 your time, 5:30 West Coast time.
Right.
So those will stay at the same time, and then Lotto has a class. So what will happen next year is we'll have a beginning drawing class at this time. We'll have a class with Lotto, and then we'll have the beginning painting on Saturday, acrylic painting, and a beginning watercolor painting on Tuesday nights. And you're welcome to come to as many as you can.
Yeah.
I figure 8:30 is better for you guys on the East Coast because you tend to work later than we do. We're a little bit more slack over here.
Yeah.
I lived in New York for a year. I remember how hard it was. I never stopped working.
Yeah, it's amazing how culture is just different everywhere you go.
Isn't it? And it's funny, I'm from Seattle originally, the West Coast, and I came to Portland, and everyone thinks I'm from the East Coast because no one works as hard as I do here. So I'm like, I don't really, like over in the East Coast, we all work the same kind of hard. And here I just work harder than it. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's not totally true, but you know what I mean? Like the culture is a lot more slack. And
Yeah.
so it's crazy. Here we are. Hey, Lotto, hold on. I'm going to stop the
Hey.
record.